book baron. Welcome in, everybody. So today we are starting to wrap up 2024 and we are kicking things off with my most disappointing reads this year. Now, as always, these are not the worst books that I've read. None of these are books that I thought were so bad I had to DNF. They're just books that I had some expectations about, I got hyped about, that simply did not live up to what I expected them to. A lot of these are authors that I love most of the rest of their books, so I was caught off guard by just an average read. Some of these are also just like hyped up by the book community in general, so I got excited about them, only to be let down. If you're looking for worst of DNF books, those videos are coming. They're just, none of those are going to appear in here. Now, I didn't target a certain number of any kind. I just picked out the ones that I thought were most disappointing. So whatever number that is, that's the number that will appear in this video. Also, if you see a book that you love appear on screen, if I start mentioning a book that you love and you don't want to hear some lady sitting in her living room dog on it, just skip over that one. Protect your mental health. It's not worth it. Don't let me ruin your day. You know what I mean? Just skip over that one. Hello, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. That's my cat, Kevin. He may be popping in and out of this video. I did also want to mention, if my energy seems really weird, I just spent my weekend in New York City, which was so lovely. I had such a great time. But my sleep is so messed up, I have drank a lot of coffee to compensate. So if I come across a little bit squirrely, it's the caffeine, it's not my fault. With all that out of the way, let's get to the books, shall we? First up, this one is really sad because it was one of my most anticipated reads for the second half of the year. It's Greenlight by Jessie Hall. This is like a dark, new adult, step-sibling, toxic bully romance. The synopsis on Goodreads is kind of vague. I'm gonna give you some additional details, a little extra on the scoop. So our girl Montana used to be a cam girl and she developed a very special relationship with one client in particular. They told each other everything, but their connection is abruptly severed. This sends Shane down a very self-destructive spiral and leads to some issues, including some overdosing and such. So he hits rock bottom. Because of that, he is ready to get some revenge, and lucky for him, Montana is re-entering his life, but in a new capacity. This is his new stepsister, and not only his stepsister, but a stepsister that is in need of housing, and he just happens to have an open room. So these two are going to be roommates. What better way to torment her? Also, in the background, there's sort of like a murder mystery going on. There's a dead body. Before I talk about why it was disappointing, this book did deliver on the vibes. If you saw the marketing promo material, delivers on that. And it also delivers on Jessie Hall's spectacular, immaculate spice. Phenomenal in that department. The problem was we got a little bit too focused on all of that and we lost track of literally everything else. We were so focused on the couple, I forgot she was going to college. No book bags in sight. I think one time she mentions emailing a professor, but other than that, no going to class, no nothing. Don't remember a single instance that actually relates to someone going to college. This just kind of caused some continuity issues because we just focused on their interactions. So like at one point, Montana has to do a little dirty deed in order to get back some like stuff for her job. She needs to memorize something for the next day. We never get the conclusion to that. I don't know if she was successful or not, if that ended up paying off. I have no clue, because the next scene was them at a rugby game, and I think then they went to a house party or something like that. Also, full point off for making rugby players the villains. I used to play rugby, and rugby players are amazing. So there's that. I'm not bitter, I'm just disappointed. I also felt like some of the reasonings behind the bullying plotline, when that got revealed, is kind of started where I started losing interest, because I was like, so it's her fault because someone else did something nasty to you? Why does that make any, how is that her fault? Grow up. I wanted there to be a better reason for that. And also just like in general, the plot. There was so many issues with the timeline. It was easy to put together the pieces for the revenge plotline. Like it was not that challenging. It was not handled with a subtle hand. It was pretty obvious what was going on there. The problem that made it confusing is that timeline-wise, when information gets revealed, makes it so that there's massive plot holes. And it actually doesn't make sense logistically how the proposed timeline of the book actually played out. It doesn't actually make sense, like at all. So for that reason, I was really disappointed with this read. Next up is one from Mariana Zapata. I know it pains me to put her on here. However, Underlock was not my bag. So this is a standalone, like all of Mariana Zapata's books. It's kind of got like a light MC feel to it. Classic grumpy sunshine, slow burn, kind of good girl, bad boy. You know, it's the Mariana Zapata formula. So we have Iris, and she is kind of starting her life over in Austin, Texas, with the help of her older half-brother. She previously was struggling to find work in Florida, so this move is kind of like her fresh start. He ends up getting a job for her through a connection to a tattoo parlor. Now, she is so excited to get this job because she just needs some amount of work to be able to pay bills, but it turns out there's a reason that this job opening exists, and that's because Dex is grouchy and has a horrible temper, so he just can't keep anyone employed or in that position. And to top it off, he's also an ex-felon, that's cute, and also part of the Widower MC, a club that her father used to be a part of. Her goal is to just basically stay employed until she can find another gig. Mariana Zapata is pretty much auto buy, auto read, whatever she puts out. Don't think I've ever rated a book prior to this under 5 stars. So this one came as a shock. And I will say I could see a lot of Mariana Zapata's beginnings of her formula starting to develop in this book, because this is kind of further back in her backlist. But oh boy, was this one way too drawn out and way too long. I love a slow burn as much as the next person, but at a certain point, it's a no burn. It's just pages. There's not relationship development going on. And I need something in those pages. There was also kind of this weird attempt to shoehorn in kind of some darker elements. Like the MC parts just never felt like they fit. It felt like such a mismatch, especially when you pair it with our heroine, who's just this quirky, like, oh, I don't know, I'm just an average girl, which kind of works in a contemporary, but like in this setting felt so weird. The hero, I'm gonna be honest, I love a grumpy hero as much as the next person, but this dude just sucked. Like, I just actually don't think he was a good person, to be honest. At a certain point, like, you're not grumpy, you're just an asshole, you know? The biggest strike against this book, I kid you not, I looked this up on the Kindle because it was driving me bonkers when I was reading. The term of endearment for this book is baby, and it is used 160 times. 160 times. Should be a felony. That should be illegal in at least like 49 of the 50 states. That's absurd. It's too much. You don't need to be doing that much. Calm down. All right, next is one that I unfortunately own physically, and that is The Blood We Crave by Monty J. So this is technically a duet. It's the third, and I don't know why I tried to show you that there's 2 books in here. This is technically the 3rd and 4th book in a series, so it's like a duet within there. Does that make sense? Great. This is like dark, new adult, kind of got like a suspense plot line, little bit of revenge. Basically, we're in a very small town that's also like very rich, very elite. Thatcher is our hero, and he is the son of a serial unaliver who unfortunately is responsible for the heroine's mother's death. So they have kind of inextricably been linked since that night. Rather than making Lyra fearful of Thatcher, it's just made her bizarrely obsessed with him, bordering on stalker behavior. Now, during this duet, a copycat of Thatcher's father ends up popping up. Their crew of friends, it turns out, is probably in danger. What made this book so disappointing? The first 2 books in the series, I adored. It's over dramatic. It was so fun. It gave me Devil Knights vibe. I was having such a fun time with this series, and I was really anticipating reading this 3rd and 4th book. This is the one that was everyone's favorite in the series. So I was so excited because I was like, I've loved the other 2 books. What does this have? The first book, I felt absolutely nothing. Didn't feel connected to the characters at all. Lyra, I love in the other books, but she was sort of like supposed to be this like silent but a little bit crazy type, and she just didn't come across like that crazy. So it just kind of was like, all right. It's just weird because she honestly felt different to me in her own books versus how she felt as a side character. Thatcher, I had absolutely no attachment to whatsoever. I do not care. He just felt basic. I'm gonna be honest, he felt basic as hell. It was kind of that like, he pines for the heroine, but he must keep his distance because that's what his daddy taught him and he must make his daddy proud. It just like wasn't that compelling of a storyline. Like I just didn't really feel anything for him or his plight. And honestly, he's been my least favorite Hollow Boy so far. I mean, in fairness, the other 2 are really good. Rook is my favorite. I love that man. And I think because I found Thatcher just kind of like generic and boring, Lyra's obsession with him just felt like a little bit pathetic. Like it felt disproportionate to who and what he was. I was just kind of like, yeah, he's just a dude though. Like, why are you so into him? What do you love about him so much that you are almost stalking him? She was stalking him. She is stalking him. But it just felt so drawn out. I think that was supposed to be a lot of the relationship development, and then more of the plot was supposed to be the Midwest that just came out of my mouth. That was terrifying. But in the second book, I think that was supposed to be more where the plot picked up. That third book, the first in this two, I was just like, go on, girl, give us nothing. Now, the second book was more interesting because the plot did pick up and we got a little bit away from the characters and some of the relationship development, which I just was not having. But honestly, because of that, I just felt like, why can't this be a single book? Why can't this just be edited down and tightened up? There's not enough plot. There's not enough character development. Let's just squish that down. You can do that simultaneously. I found myself bored. I actually kept this in the wrapping because I think I'm gonna sell this special edition of it. That's how little I am attached to this book. I feel nothing, although this is a beautiful design. All right, next up we have Bone Island by Nicole Fiorina. This is the second book in the series called The Tales of Weeping Hollow, or The Weeping Hollow. What is happening to my mouth? The Weeping Hollow series. So this only has 2 books out now. I know that there's more planned, so it's an incomplete series. It's paranormal fantasy, kind of got like a little bit of a small town gothic romance sort of feel. And this is about Adora and Stone. And Adora is from one of the founding families of Weeping Hollow, but they are no longer like a big pillar in the community. They live in quite a humble home these days compared to some of the other founding families. And her mother's actually in a catatonic state. And much of her life actually revolves around trying to get revenge for the person she believes caused her mother to be in this catatonic state. Between that and running the dress shop, she just really doesn't have time for pretty much anything else. And unfortunately, it's announced that she is to marry, and this puts everything that she has been working for years and years in jeopardy. Meanwhile, we're also, during this, getting flashbacks to the heroes from way back in the day. Some might even call it historical times, and the way that he has lived and had to endure with not being able to show his face. All the while he is drawing a mysterious woman that seems to be his other half. So that one's a little bit more vague, but you get the gist. Very spooky. As I said, this is the second book in the series. The first book, I had such a good time. I read it around Halloween. It was immaculate for that. So I was so excited to get to this book because I was like, that one was killer. This one lost the atmosphere of the first one, which is what made that first book so good. The infighting among different groups, the politics of the town, that's what made it fun. This lost all of that because we were like off on our own for a lot of it. It was mostly just the hero and heroine, like in their homes or interacting with each other. There was not much else going on. The writing is still pretty good. It's still pretty lyrical. It's got this sad, melancholic feel. But again, because we're so secluded, it loses the charm. The charm of the town was really what made things so fun in that first book. I also just didn't really love Adora as a heroine. And I saw it in some reviews that people were like, oh, she's unlikable, or she's just bitchy. I actually didn't find her that out of pocket or that cold. I thought she was fine. I got it. I understood her motivations. I understood where she was coming from, right? Like, she's so focused on trying to get revenge that she is just doing whatever it takes to get that done. So if anyone accidentally gets in her way, she's no problem stomping on their toes. We love a woman that likes to get stuff done. I just felt like those parts were just wildly inconsistent with how Adora sees herself, which is sort of this like, poor me, I have all these burdens. Why don't you just like talk to literally anyone in your life? You have a whole town that would potentially be behind you. You have a whole coven of witches. You have a huge family. Why are you not talking to anyone, including the person that is the love of your life, that you've loved for every version of the life that you have existed together in? Why are you not just talking with one of those people to help like lighten the load so that you have like someone to share the burden with? It just felt like it was so obvious how to fix this problem she was encountering. I was like, just have one conversation. That's all I'm asking. I get it. She's trying to be self-sacrificing. She's trying to fix all this stuff. It just felt like there was such an easy fix. With the romance, I was just unconvinced. I felt like the feelings were backed by absolutely nothing. anything other than it's fate or we're soulmates. I just didn't feel like there was enough to like convince me that these two made sense together. I felt like a lot of their interactions were just them being like, oh my God, I can't help but be horny for you. And so I would like to bone down now. Hence, this is called Bone Island. I think in my review, I called it Boner Island. So you're welcome. That's yours now. My ultimate problem. This book is just straight up boring. Look at how chunky she is. Over 600 pages. This needed to be edited down. A lot of the world building that we would have needed occurred in the previous book, which was also shorter, by the way. There's not really relationship development or character development. So what are we doing for so many pages? That's too long to just be bored. The last third, it just felt like we rushed through. And then the ending, there was this like fake out. Is it gonna end up okay? Maybe not. Just kidding. And we're done. And within like 3 pages, we had so many pages and we did nothing with them. And I just felt like so much of this was repetitive. Much like the previous book, I just needed this to be edited down. Next up, in a similar vein, we have another sequel that I was disappointed with, and that is Crown of Crimson by Karina Halley. This is the second book in a series, and it's like a dark Finnish fantasy retelling or Finnish mythology kind of retelling. So I don't spoil anything. I'm going to tell you about the first book in the series, River of Shadows, and this is about Hannah, who has her estranged father abruptly pass away, and he lives out in a very remote part of Finland, so she has to fly like way away into Finland to go to his funeral. But from the second she touches down, things just feel off. Her father's body is missing, and that's when Rasmus, her father's apprentice, fills her in on what's actually going on. It turns out her father is a very powerful shaman. He's actually not dead, which is probably why she couldn't find the body. He actually went to barter for more life in the realm of the dead. He is now stuck there, so she needs to go help rescue him. But unfortunately, she is not so successful in her attempts, and she too ends up captured by the god of death. So I think my issue with this book, which made it so disappointing, was that this felt so obviously like a filler book. Not much relationship development. It's just focused on these two boinking it out. I got so sick of the male main character's perspective. All of his thoughts revolve around the heroine. That's it. It's like, oh, he's so proud of her. Oh, he's so angry with her. All of his thoughts revolve around her. Where's the personality, my guy? Being horny for the heroine is not a personality. I just, at a certain point, I honestly was skimming, especially the spicy scenes, because I was like, well, we know what's happening here. Move it along. There were some bits of information that got revealed. There was little bits that contributed to the plot, but once again, it just felt like we were meandering around, and then like the end is just where everything happened. As much as that action was interesting and fun, and I liked the reveals, why do we have a whole book where it's mostly just boinking and not character development, not relationship development, and almost no plot, only to get like a little bit of plot at the end? I am sick of that. All right, we are starting to wind things down. So next up, we had a book that I was very much anticipating, and that was Chasing Midnight by Cindy Dawson. This is the first in a new novella series. I honestly have not kept up with the rest of the series, so I don't even know if more has been published or not, but I know this one exists. It's basically, the heroine is on vacation. The male main character is a bartender. She goes into his bar. They immediately hit it off. And then they run around for a week having a spicy good time. There's a couple car racing scenes, but we know that their time is limited because she's on vacation and she must get back to real life at some point. I think if you want a spicy good time and that is literally all you're looking for, perfect. Read this bad boy. I think that if you go in looking for anything that the marketing material was based on, you're going to be disappointed, which was the case for me. I was expecting this to be like car racing, gearhead, Fast and the Furious. We got the group of guys that we're always hanging out with that we race against. We've got rivalries. I was expecting so much more than this actually was. And you know what? That's on me. I should have known that in a novella that there was going to be not a lot of plot. I should have known that. And somehow I still got taken in. The characters, there's nothing unique about them. The relationship was completely unearned. They were just like infatuated with each other in a way that felt disproportionate. It was literally just them running around for a week. There was, I think, one car racing scene. I wanted so much more with the cars. I was so disappointed because there was not a lot with the cars. And the ending sucked. The ending sucked donkey dong so hard. It's not an HEA. It's not. It is at best a happy for now. As far as I'm concerned, it's a, oh good, we conveniently saw each other again. I think that ending proves that these two were just having a vacation fling, and that's all this novella should have been. There is nothing to substantiate this relationship. And finally, we have Delicious by A.J. Merlin. So this is the fourth in an interconnected series. It's kind of supposed to be like captive romance. We've got a plus size heroine, kind of like some light horror elements. Our heroine ends up going off for a job. She's taking some photos in the woods. She gets really caught up in her work despite being warned to make sure that she leaves before dark. She doesn't do that. And suddenly it's dark around her and she's hearing chainsaws in the distance. She runs into a man begging for his life. And now, because she is a witness, Chainsaw Boy that was running after him is gonna take her captive. He can't risk his secret getting out. This was the first time I ever read this author, and I'll be honest, I got really hyped off of this blurb. I thought this was gonna be so juicy, and even reading the first parts of the book, I was like, oh yes. It read like a horror movie. I was so excited. And then pretty much immediately, the chainsaw incident is treated like a little meet cute. The relationship almost immediately starts because he just starts being sweet and taking care of her immediately. There's no tension, there's no build. He's immediately obsessed. The relationship's built on nothing. I'm not joking. He cooks her one meal and this girl is sliding off her chair because she's just so hot and bothered for him. Like, it took this much effort. After a dude chainsawed a man in front of her. Raise your standards. Also, can we just acknowledge liking Lunchables is not, in fact, a personality trait? Because this girl cannot stop mentioning that she loves a Lunchable. It went from cute to exasperating so quickly. The bottom line about this was that the only thing that was cool about this book was the beginning portion. And after that, it was a squishy, marshmallowy romance. That does not deliver on the horror, on the scary elements, on tension. It went so flat so quickly. Like, how do you pair that beginning with that middle and ending? Honestly, by the end, they were like adopting a cat together. And I was like, I just simply don't care. This is not what I'm here for. I wanted to get a little bit scared. I just wanted so much more from this book, especially with the promise of the beginning of that book. So frustrating. So there you have it, folks. Those are my most disappointing reads this year. I would love to hear from you. If I mentioned a book that you loved and you listened to me rant about it, I would love for you to defend your favorites because you know what? My opinion is not the only one out there. Clearly, some of these books are very beloved. So if you loved one of those books, let me know what you loved about them. If you were also disappointed by any of these books, let me know that too. Also, let me know what your most disappointing read was this year. What was the book that you just felt so let down by? You were really anticipating it, or it was really hyped. You got so excited and then it just ended up being okay. I want to know what book that was for you. With all of that, thank you so much for being here. I hope your December is going well. Don't forget to like this video if you like it. Subscribe if you want some more content from me. Do you want to see more of my face on your feed? I know you do. And I really hope that I see you on my next video. Bye-bye.